Welcome to the Brain Trust. I'm Jane Carter from janecartercoaching.com, and I help soulful solopreneurs, deep feelers, deep thinkers who do great work, help them have more fun and money and confidence and all the things in their small businesses. And I put together this Brain Trust conversation series so that I could meet with people who are amazing advisors. Your Brain Trust is your board of advisors. And I've had the privilege to meet some incredible solopreneurs. And so today I'm really excited to welcome Adela Hussain, who is a PR superstar and an amazing human and so fun to talk to. But I can't wait to get into it so that everyone watching this can learn more about entrepreneurship, but also PR and the solopreneur journey that Adela has been on. Adela, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here on your podcast, Jane.
I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
you're here. And will you introduce yourself to the Brain Trust?
Of course. I love the name Brain Trust, by the way. That's such a
You.
fantastic name. So my name is Adela Hussain. I am British, as you can hear from my very British accent. I'm a disruptive publicist and story hunter. And what that means is I help build trusted icons in the wellness and personal development industry. So you can see, Jane, why I like the word trust, because I'm obsessed with building trusted icons. So I help I help entrepreneurs sort of stand out as experts in what is, I see, quite a cookie cutter industry, and become seen as these trusted icons from their audience, by stakeholders, and from future potential clients. And how I support my clients is through a media mastermind that I run called the Parlour. And also a new program I'm running called the Trusted Icon, where I really help you create your newsworthy story and connect you to news hunting journalists so that you can be seen as that trusted icon. You can be seen as that trusted expert, so that you can make more money and get your mission out there.
Awesome. And I love that being seen is one of the biggest hurdles that the solopreneurs I coach face. Like the
Yes.
fear of being seen is huge. So I love that you're out there helping people feel more confident so that they know and know how to do it, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so this is brilliant, and this is why I wanted you to be here. So yay! So I want to dive in. I have some questions I like to ask people, but we'll see where it goes if we get on side trails. But the first question I really love to ask is, as you think about the people you've worked with, what is a mistake, or maybe the people you haven't worked with who need you? What's a mistake that you see people making, not realizing that they're making a mistake? Like maybe shooting
Mm.
themselves in the foot, thinking that they're doing what they should do.
I love this question. Thank you for asking this. So it's not necessarily, I'm going to sort of twist this a little bit. It's not what people think they should do, it's what they're not doing, right? And
Mm,
so the biggest mistake I see in the industry, especially, it's ironic. It's like almost the more qualified an expert is, the more they say these things to themselves, which is, I'm not ready for media yet, or I'm too small. I need to be bigger before I get my message out there more.
mhm.
So the mistake I see people making is that they're almost waiting for permission to step into the spotlight. They're waiting for someone to tap them on the shoulder. And the sad thing is that no one is ever going to bring you out into a lineup. You know, one of my favorite movies is The Usual Suspects. Have you
Oh
seen The
yeah,
Usual
I
Suspects?
love The Usual Suspects. It's one of my
Such a good film,
favorites.
yeah. And I think almost people, think that one day they're going to be lined up in a Usual Suspect lineup, and someone's going to say, now you're ready to be featured in the media. Now you're ready to step onto that stage.
Yeah.
And they're waiting a long time because no one's ever going to tap you on the shoulder. So what I tell people when they're thinking that they need to, wait until they're ready to play bigger, is what do you see the people who are really well known in your industry do all the time, right? What do you see, these big players do? And the answer in all those cases is that they're always on the stages, they're always talking to their podcast, and they're always in the media. They're always in the media, getting their mission out there. So the way to get over this is to think, right, if I want to be bigger, if I want to be iconic in the next 3 to 5 years, I need to claim my authority now, right? From day one.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what those qualified experts did. They didn't wait for someone to tell them, now's the time that you get your book out there. Now's the time that you put a feature out in women's health. They didn't wait for permission. So that's the biggest mistake I see people doing, is they're just waiting and not claiming their authority from day one, and putting themselves forward for opportunities and telling the world, this is what I do and this is how I help you.
I love that. And yes, I sometimes will joke that the permission fairy isn't coming.
Yes.
That people are waiting for permission or waiting for some authority. As you're saying, there's not some gatekeeper or authority who's going to say, now I deem you worthy. That now it's up to us to say, okay, I know my stuff. I have something to give.
100%. And I think if we think about it, there's quite a lot of entrepreneurs and experts who may have typically worked in the corporate world, right? And if you think about the corporate world, there's a point in the year or every few years where you put yourself up for promotion. So, you have to think a little bit like, okay, I'm not in the corporate world anymore. No one's going to say, oh, now it's promotion time and fill out your promotion form. You are your own boss in your own company, and you're the one that has to give yourself permission to kind of promote yourself every year and say, right, how do I play bigger? How do I stretch myself? How do I put myself beyond my comfort zone? Who do I need to help me on that journey?
Yeah.
And I think, because people have jumped from corporate to entrepreneurship, they forget that. So
that there isn't someone there who's going to say, okay, it's time, or you have the authority now. I love that. And that actually makes me curious. It sounds like you know something about that, and I'm curious if you were to talk to your younger self, maybe when you were in the corporate world, or when you were first making that transition out of the corporate world and into running your own business, is there anything you wish you could say to that Adela?
Yes, it's
good
good
in that space and in that moment.
Yes, good question. So, what's interesting about my story is that I jumped ship from corporate to setting up a fashion business, a fashion styling business. And I was in the media very fast when I had that business over a 4-year period. So I did actually claim my authority at the very beginning, because my intention with that business was to get investors on board and grow that company. And investors did approach me. But the reason they approached me is because I was very strong at getting myself in the media. And I was in something like 14 publications in 12 months. And I got invited on to the equivalent of Shark Tank. In the UK, it's called Dragon's Den twice. And
that's so cool.
Cosmopolitan picked like top 12 female founders of the year, and I was one of them. I was just like out there, right? The mistake I made after I ended that business and I started this business, helping experts to get in the media, is because I'd already been in the media, I didn't necessarily claim my authority from day one of this business. So this current business. So I remember some of my email list said to me 3 years ago, you should set up a podcast, Adela. And I didn't, because I was so slightly obsessed actually with helping my clients get in the media, that I was sort of prioritizing my clients' results over me marketing myself. Which is an interesting conversation about how much time you spend on.
I know something about doing that.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Yeah,
conversation, isn't it?
yeah.
So I didn't necessarily claim my authority, and I sort of focused on building summits, for example. And the ironic thing is, I recorded like 40 episodes of interview recordings in a summit format, whereas I probably can repurpose this, but my regret is not starting a podcast at the very start of that journey. I should
Yeah,
have started
and
a podcast.
centering, here's what I'm doing, and
Mm,
yeah, I went.
yeah,
I followed one of your summits a couple of years ago. It was amazing, and yeah, I would love. Oh, I would so follow a podcast if you had one. Like
oh,
you had
thank
great
you.
interviews with people, but
Yeah,
also you clearly had and have so much to share, so much wisdom. So yeah, I
yeah.
just want to hear more of
I
Bella.
think the reason is because, one of the things I'm personally obsessed with is helping people find the hidden story.
Mm,
And so because I spend a lot of time with journalists and editors, I think a little bit like a journalist. A lot of my friends, my journalist friends, say you should be a journalist, right? So I like to ask interesting questions. So
oh yeah.
I will start a podcast, but at some point. But what I'm saying is that, remember to claim your authority from day one, whatever business you set up from day one, right? Don't just think you've had some media in the past and then you can stop. You've got to keep doing it. You've got to have that marketing momentum throughout your business,
Mhm.
and give time for yourself to market yourself as well as deliver the results with your
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you have worked with so many journalists. You're bringing so much of that expertise into helping people, and you really help people connect with journalists. I love that. So, but I do
Yeah.
want to ask you, having done this for a while, having been in that world for a while, and especially both as in your fashion business as you were getting in the media, but then now starting this business that helps people get into the media. Is there anything that still surprises you about this field or about what you do? I mean, I think you
Mm.
probably see the mistakes people make in an ongoing way, but yeah, what's coming up that when I ask,
So,
what surprises you or blows you
so
away?
what surprises me, and still surprises me, is how much journalists need stories, right, for
Mhm.
the media, and how much they depend on that for their livelihood.
Yeah.
And this was the biggest aha moment for me when, before I was an entrepreneur, and I was a management consultant, one of my clients was Sky Sports News.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in this 24-hour newsroom, which was for sport. And sport is just such a big industry. And it was almost like I was sitting in the Vatican of soccer, right? Like I was in the heart of it. Like people like David Beckham would walk into the office, Lewis
Right.
Hamilton, like anyone who's anyone in any sport would end up in that newsroom at
Yeah.
some point. Like that, it was just as big as ESPN, right? It was huge. And I happened to be there, not necessarily as a journalist, but as a consultant transforming
Mhm.
the newsroom and how the processes were being done and the systems. And my boss, my client boss, was the director of Sky Sports News. So he was huge. He had
Oh
so
yeah.
much power in that room. And I remember him inviting me to the very first news feature meeting. So if you're kind of new to the media world, every Monday, whether it's a TV channel, whether it's a magazine, whether it's an online, publication, they will have a Monday morning news planning meeting where journalists, producers, directors will come together and say, right, what's happening in the world? Give me some news stories. And because Sky was a 24-hour news channel, they needed stories all the time. And I remember my boss at the time, who was, huge, really, Rupert Murdoch had hired him, right? This is how senior, these people were.
Yeah, kind of a
And I
big
remember,
deal. Yeah.
pretty big deal, right? And I remember looking at my client boss and laughing because he was at the head of the table, like Don Corleone from The Godfather, and sort of pounding his fists on the table. And there were these 30, 40 men in the room, and they were cowering, right? They were like kind of, trembling in their boots, and their teeth were sort of clattering. So what is going on here? And they were journalists and TV producers who were nervous if they didn't have a story. And I was the consultant with the clipboard, and my remit was, Adela, you're going to have to help me decide who's going to be fired from this office. And it was a horrible, horrible job. But I learned from that day that a journalist needs your story, right? If you're an expert and you do not pitch your story to a journalist, you are not helping them keep their job, especially now that the media industry is in flux. So I always encourage my clients inside my program to think, it's not about you and your business. It's about the story that you give the journalist so that you can keep them in their job. And when you're an expert and you take it out of your own head and you think, how can I help keep that journalist in their job so that they're on a Monday morning, they can pitch their Don Corleone boss with a story? Like, I'm doing good in the world. I'm not just reaching my future client who needs my psychotherapy services, right? When they read me in a feature in 10 months' time, I'm actually keeping the journalist in their job who actually pitched that to their boss and got a yes that day. So you are part
to my helper heart.
you are part of a media ecosystem when you contribute stories about your work, about your expertise. And I think that was the biggest aha moment for me about 10 years ago when I first started really getting into newsrooms. But that continues to be a aha moment for my clients when I work with them inside the Parlour and the Trusted Icon. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about the ecosystem and what you're contributing.
That is so, I never would have thought of that. And so I love that answer. And it's so interesting because, we can get so in our own heads. And what do they think of me? How am I looking? How am I coming across? And that ego thing can be so overwhelming and fear-based. And so then when you get out of your ego and you go, no, I have someone to serve. I have something to give. And there's actually a need. I'm thinking about, this is such a random reference, but I'm so good at random movie references. I love that you referenced The Godfather, by the way.
I love movies. Can you tell I'm actually a story fanatic? So
yes,
I think
you are. Okay.
Part of the reason is, I love stories.
Like you love stories. Do you know the movie Swingers?
Yeah, I do.
From
the late
90s.
Yes.
And there's a great scene, and they're like, you're like this bear, and you've got these claws and these fangs, and she's just a scared little bunny, and you're like, how am I going to eat this bunny? How am I going to kill this bunny? But you've got these claws and these fangs. You're amazing. You're so scary, but you don't know. You're like, but how am I going to do it? They're trying to convince their friend, that he's got so much to offer. Anyway, it makes me think of that, where it's like, how am I going to get in the media? What are they going to think of me? Am I good enough? And you're like, they are waiting for you. They are dying for you to pitch them. Give them some stories, give them some content. So that's really, and again, that it's about the story, not about who you are even.
100%. I always say to people, one of the principles I have in my teaching in the Trusted Icon is lead with the story and not your ego. Right?
Oh, that's so good, Adela. Yes.
Lead with the story and not your ego. Because once you get beyond your ego, right, you actually start to become more intelligent and you develop what I call the media mindset, and you realize you're part of a media ecosystem where you are contributing stories out there in the world to people who need those stories to keep their jobs. But most importantly, there's a ripple effect to your future clients and your future audience finding out about you. So it sort of keeps rippling and rippling and rippling. And you have to start the ripple now by throwing that story out there into that lake and just watching it expand. And I think people just don't even throw the pebble of the story out there, right? They just get they're too much in their heads.
Yeah,
And
and
so
waiting for the
this,
permission or
yeah,
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 or
yeah.
even I wonder if there's kind of a, well, this is how you should do it now versus, hey, the media's right there.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I think there's also one of the, excuses I see people saying to themselves is, I don't have inside connections. I don't have access to media people. Like, my network is lawyers or bankers or therapists or, yoga instructors. Like, how do I get to speak to a journalist? And I would encourage these people to look at programs where you get to meet journalists, virtually or in person. And so this is what I do inside the Trusted Icon. And my other program, the Parlour, is you get a hot seat with a journalist. You get to meet a journalist, on a call, and you have a hot seat with them. And once you're in a hot seat with a journalist, you suddenly realize they're not so scary after all. And, they're not Samantha Jones types or, kind of, those whatever series,
Yeah, yeah, they're
Mad
not,
Men type people in the media. They're people who need stories.
yeah, they're not out to
Uh,
get you. They actually
they're
want.
not out to get you. I mean, why would they do that?
Yeah.
Every journalist I work with is not out to get anyone. They just want to keep their jobs and pay their mortgages.
That's great. Okay, so you shared one key moment, which was, sitting by the Don Corleone of the sports world. Are there any other key moments that can be great moments, failures, aha moments, any others? I mean, that one was fantastic. Are there any other moments that you want to share that really helped you in your business?
um, so a really powerful moment I had in my last business, when I was constantly in the media, actually, was when I got a letter back from someone. And it really moved me. So I had a fashion business. So just to kind of bring everyone up to speed, I had a fashion business where I was delivering outfits in a box to busy women that didn't have time to go shopping. So a little bit like, if some of you in the States might know of a company called Stitch Fix. It was like the Stitch Fix of Europe. And I was in I think it was that issue was the Telegraph. So I was in a big kind of 2-page feature in the Telegraph, a magazine supplement, and it was explaining the service and the product. And I got, $20,000 worth of sales the minute the article went live, right? And the publication came out. And one of the new clients who had ordered the style box emailed me. And she sent me this email and she said, I'm so glad I read about you in the Telegraph last week. The reason is because I can't leave my house to go shopping for clothes. I'm actually in a wheelchair and I have a physical disability. And my husband is elderly. And we really struggle to drive to a shop for me to buy clothes. So the fact that you send the clothes to me and I get to try them on in my home helps me so much because I'm in a wheelchair. And honestly, it still wells me up when I talk about this, because at the time, my clients were lawyers, bankers, women in the media who had these fast-paced jobs. And it never, when I had this business for 24 months, it never occurred to me that by putting my story out there, I would suddenly open up a new market and discover new groups of clients who needed my offer. And I
Wow.
suddenly realized that women in wheelchairs who physically couldn't leave the house was a whole new demographic I hadn't explored in the business. So media is not just about you and getting your story out there and even targeting your new clients who you think are your customer avatar. It's also opening up new markets. It's also opening up new stories and new copy, new people you can market to. Like, it's so powerful. So
Yeah.
it becomes this is going quite deep here.
Oh, love it.
It becomes a symbiotic relationship where you put your story out there in the universe and you get the message back that actually this is a new path you can go down. This is a new revenue stream you could go down. This is a new type of client you're not serving right now. And it's almost like the universe feeds back to you things like untapped revenue,
Yeah.
streams.
Yeah.
It's
And
really powerful.
that's really powerful. That's a really powerful story. And it just brings home that idea. You never know who is going to be positively affected by
Yes.
by you sharing your story. You
Yes.
just never know.
And I've seen it a lot with my clients this year, like telling their stories about, all sorts of things. Clients who have one client who discovered she was in menopause on email from her doctor. And
Oh,
she
wow.
put that was the headline. So we brainstormed that headline with a journalist in her hot seat inside my program. And 4 months later, it was in a 4-page article. I discovered I was in menopause on email. And the journalist, you could literally trace it back to that hot seat. And that story will help so many women who are going through menopause, who don't realize they're in menopause when they read that story. So there's it's just, media goes beyond you and your business. It really does. It really helps people. Like, stories connect humans together.
I'm just relishing that. Yes. Yes. And I think, I mean, on the other side of that, I've been a therapist for 23 years now. So I can attest to just the power of telling your story, right? Like there's so much healing that comes in telling one's story and so much perspective. The other side of that, it's been really fun as a coach to see the other side of that, which is the sharing of one's story can help other people too. And there's healing in being able to share your story or just share stories, right? I have a feeling you and I could go on for hours just talking about our favorite movies.
we can do.
And
But
I
just
love
a point,
like random movie quotes from like the 90s.
I love it. We're both movie buffs.
Yeah.
But what another point to add there, really, that I think you and your and listeners today will really resonate with and discover is that, and one of my clients actually told me about this, and I didn't realize this until we reviewed what it was like to work with me after 12 months in the program. Is she said, Adela, I didn't realize that in actually talking to journalists every month and telling my story, the journalists would help me refine my messaging for my work.
Yeah.
And I suddenly reflected, as though we have the world's best journalists in these hot seats. They are the world's best communicators. They're going to give you feedback in your 12-minute hot seat on your story, and you're going to see your story or see your marketing message or your copy very differently. And that helps you refine it. So I think we're kind of having a full circle moment here, but the point around people saying to themselves, oh, I'm not ready yet, right, to be in the media. I'm not ready to play bigger. Well, you won't ever be ready. There's no end point. Your copy, your messaging, your marketing is always going through this process of refinement.
Yeah.
And so you need to kind of put yourself in a hot seat with a journalist, not because you're always expecting them to tell you, like, yes, you can get into Forbes today. Sure. You're actually testing your story out in the art of that, in that storytelling moment. And you're going to get feedback. And then the next month, you're going to refine that. And then you're going to refine that. And so after a period of, like, some of my clients have met 24 journalists in 12 months, what they started off with in month 0 became very different to what they started putting in the media in month 12. And they have to go through that journey. It is a media journey. It's a visibility journey. So never think you have to be a polished product.
Yeah.
Before you do it, you actually have to, this is another reason why you have to claim your authority from day one, because it's going to change.
Yeah, it's the doing that creates
The
the
product, the product, the
ability,
finish.
like the doing actually makes you ready. The doing of it makes you an authority. The doing.
100%. 100%.
Oh,
And the
this is deep. This is
it
good.
is deep, it is deep, but it's a smart conversation. And I feel like, you know, the media messaging out there in the industry is a little bit simplistic,
Yeah.
you know, and it's actually, you know, you have to realize, like, if you want to be in the media, you've got to get in front of journalists, right? You've got to use their years of expertise to help you refine your message.
Yeah.
And just embrace that journey because it's
Yeah.
fun.
Well, and okay, last thing, and then I want to hear, I want you to share more about your program that's coming up. But even I think a lot of people feel intimidated just by the concept of media.
Mm.
And seeing how comfortable you are with it, having just been out there, right? And coaching other people through it, and seeing how much fun you're having. And also even just you relating, hey, these journalists are humans and they have a need, right? It just, my hope is that people are going to leave this conversation feeling less intimidated by that arena. I know I already do just from talking to you
Yes.
right now. That that it can be fun, that this is
Oh,
not,
yeah.
that this is a fun thing. It's actually a huge confidence builder. That the doing of it is going to have all kinds of benefits, not just financial, though getting clients is great. That's what we want, right? But that there are all these other side effects to it. Anyway, I hope people, I think people are going to feel less intimidated in general going into it.
I
Um,
think so. And I think, you know, and this is actually a reason why uh I've personally started to market my program as more helping you become a trusted icon
mm,
rather than just pitch to media, because the word media can intimidate people. But what you have to remember is if you're an expert and you're trying to get your work out there,
mhm.
you will not sell spots to your program. You will not get more clients unless people know you exist. And once people know you exist and you start getting out there, the key thing you need to focus on is how do I build trust with those individuals in a very short period of time, right? And we're in this kind of era of slight distrust, right? There's elections going on.
Slight,
There's
slight
slight,
distance.
yeah, huge.
Are you kidding me?
I don't want people to walk away with that doom and gloom, but there's just this kind of, we're in this kind of
Wah,
like,
wah.
yeah, era of distrust. And so you're kind of working against this backdrop. And so you as an expert need to start building your authority. You need to start putting credibility markers out there, because it's just not enough to be an expert these days, right?
Mhm.
You've got to be trusted.
Yeah.
And the way you build trust is to start putting your authority out there and aligning yourself with these media brands. And the how doesn't have to be intimidating. Just join a program and find something that can help you do that, right? I've got a program. There's lots of other people
Yeah.
who've got programs.
Tell us about your program. I'm really excited to hear about that, being that trusted icon.
Mm.
Tell us about that, because it sounds amazing.
Yeah, so I've got a program coming out called the Trusted Icon. It's a 6-month program, and it's designed to help you stand out from a kind of sea of cookie cutter experts and become this trusted icon. And so we have this framework called the 5 Habits of Highly Trusted Icons. And so I'll be teaching you every month how to layer in those habits every month to become this trusted icon, so that when you approach journalists, when you approach potential clients, when you approach podcasters, people you want to collaborate with, they immediately see you as an authority they want to put on their platforms. And the way we deliver the teaching is quite unique, because I think personally, I'm kind of done with these online courses where you have these death by PowerPoint presentations. You're sort of eating chocolate late into the night, watching a talking head, you know. And so I recently moved to Denmark, right? So this is what's so interesting. I move quickly in the way that I teach. And in Denmark, I noticed, Jane, that here people love fitness. I think they're honestly one of the fittest nations I've ever come across. And everyone, honestly, people, if you want to talk 90s references, I go to the metro and honestly, the men here look like Dolph Lundgren. Do you remember him from Universal
Oh
Soldier?
yeah.
It
Oh,
is not a joke. Like, I think
oh,
I could
that's
get
hilarious.
arrested for like
Oh, they sound
photographing these men
gorgeous.
because, well, it's not just gorgeous. They just look otherworldly. Like they're so,
Yeah.
and they're not even, this guy wasn't even a fitness instructor. He was in a suit. It's like, how can you be 6'5" in a suit with a, like, when do you find the time to do that level of many workouts? That's another conversation. But I started going to these training sessions, right? These CrossFit sessions. And so what I've noticed is that when you show up to a CrossFit session and you do these different workouts, you get results. And so now in the Trusted Icon, we're going to have something called the visibility workouts, where you show up for an hour twice a week and you do the work, you do the workout. So you're not sitting there having a death by PowerPoint program, course. Right. You actually do the work.
You're not just making a to-do list. It's like, no, we're doing it right now.
I think the biggest blocker for people in getting any results in any program is just finding time to do the work. Yeah. Whereas it's actually someone creates this, so we see this with writing salons. You go to a writing salon, they have writing hour, you write what you need to write. So we're kind of adopting this framework of these workouts. So it's a unique way of delivering the program with these digestible workouts. And I'm very excited to help people become these trusted icons through this new way of delivering the program.
Awesome. And so if people are interested in that or interested in connecting with you, where can they find you? What's your website or Instagram, or how do we?
Just email me. I'm very happy for people to email me. So you can email me at adela@pitchtopress.com. So PITCH to press PRESS.com. Or you can go to pitchtopress.com and I have a little freebie there that you can download, and that's another way of getting into my world. But just email me or send me an Instagram message. Very easy. I like to keep things open.
And you have a great Instagram account. I love your Instagram. You're always doing
Thank you.
So I get to see your pictures and see your amazing outfits.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
You're a fashion inspiration to me. So.
Oh, thank you. I should do more of those. I sometimes think I'm not talking enough about, the trusted icon, and I'm just sort of talking about outfits and life in Copenhagen. But I'm realizing actually everyone loves to see where people live and what they do. So yes, if you want Copenhagen tips as well, I'm a real foodie. Yeah. Follow me on Instagram, Adela _Hussain on Instagram. And you can find out more about me from there.
Awesome. Adela, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. I knew it would be, but man, I mean, just full of value, but also so much fun. And I can't wait for us to get together and quote some movies some more.
I love it.
Thank you so much. Really.
Thank you so much, Jane, for inviting me. It's just been a really fun conversation and we've gone very deep. So I can't wait to hear everyone's takeaways as well. So if you've got some amazing aha moments from this recording, please send me a DM. I want to hear that on Instagram. Tell me what you learned.
Absolutely. And I'll put all your information in the comments section on YouTube. And so feel free to give feedback there. Anyway, feedback is great. Y'all go check out Adela. And thank you so much for being here, Adela. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Yay.